You ever see a judge tie a pregnant woman to a courtroom chair like she was furniture, not a human being, like she was some kind of message he was sending to everyone else? Yeah, that happened. And the man who did it had no idea she was married to the Noah Delgado, a name that in this town meant fire chief, war veteran, and someone you did not mess with. But let me back up a sec. It was one of those mornings in Crestwell, Georgia. Blue skies, chirping birds, and that fake calm that usually means something ugly is brewing under the surface. Emilia Delgado was in her kitchen, humming as she arranged a tray of cupcakes. Frosted, delicate, and damn near perfect, like everything she did. She was 8 months pregnant, but you'd never know it from the way she moved. Steady, gentle, like she had more grace in her than most folks could ever buy. Her husband Noah, already dressed in his fire chief uniform, took one look at her and said, "You're really walking all the way to the courthouse with those?" "Why not?" she smiled, sliding the tray into a basket. "It's a beautiful day, and I figured a little kindness wouldn't hurt, even for someone like Judge Barrett." Now, if you're not from around here, you don't know the name. Judge Maxwell Barrett, old money, old rules, and older opinions. The kind of man who thinks mercy is weakness and power is a birthright. Noah, knowing that better than anyone, just kissed her forehead and muttered, "Just don't overdo it. Some folks in this town don't deserve kindness." But Emilia, bless her heart, believed in doing what's right, not what's easy. She stepped out into the sun like it was her first time seeing it, hair tucked in a neat scarf, dress flowing with every step, and headed toward the courthouse. As she passed by, her neighbor Marlene called out from the porch, "Morning, Emilia. You headed to the judge's office?" Emilia held up the basket. "Just a little something sweet. Thought it might brighten his day." Marlene frowned, stepped closer, lowered her voice. "You be careful, hun. That man, he ain't sweet, and he sure as hell don't like surprises." Emilia just chuckled. Who could be grumpy with cupcakes? But Marlene didn't laugh. She just stood there, watching her walk away like she was heading into a storm she couldn't see coming. The courthouse loomed ahead, all brick and smugness. Inside, it smelled like dust, wood polish, and old secrets. Emilia made her way through the hall, the low murmur of voices rising and falling like a warning. She passed the courtroom, its door slightly ajar, and curiosity got the better of her. She peeked inside, and what she saw made her heart drop. A teenager, maybe 17, skinny, dark-skinned, wearing a threadbare hoodie, stood before Judge Barrett. His name was Jordan Tate. Emilia knew him. He'd helped her change a flat tire just last week. Sweet kid, polite, nervous as hell now, standing there like he was waiting for the axe to fall. Judge Barrett was already leaning in, voice sharp like a blade. "You think you're above the law, son? You think walking through my courtroom late means I won't notice?" Jordan tried to speak, stammering something about his bus running late. But the judge wasn't listening. He didn't want reasons. He wanted blood. Emilia couldn't take it. "Excuse me," she said, stepping into the courtroom, "but that boy doesn't deserve—" That's all she got out. The bailiffs, both big as refrigerators and twice as silent, were on her in seconds. "Ma'am, you'll need to leave." "But Now." They walked her out like she was the criminal. And Judge Barrett? He smirked, like it amused him, like she'd just given him a new game to play. Emilia's hands were shaking. The cupcakes in her basket felt ridiculous now, like glitter at a funeral. But she wasn't done. The next day she returned. This time she walked into that courtroom, head high, eyes locked on Barrett. "You're condemning a boy without evidence. That's not justice." Barrett leaned back, smiled, that slow, oily kind of smile. "You think this is your show, Mrs. Delgado? Let me teach you how the real world works." And then, I kid you not, he had her tied to the chair, right there, in front of everyone. Coarse rope, swollen belly. No one said a damn word. "You want to disrupt my court? Then you sit and think about what justice means," he said, before going right back to berating Jordan like nothing happened. And Emilia, bless her unshakable heart, didn't flinch. She stared him down like a lioness. And still, not one soul in that courtroom rose to object. When she told Noah later that night, told him she'd been tied up in front of a crowd of silent cowards, his jaw locked so tight it looked like it might crack. "He tied you to a chair?" "Yes," she said, voice rising. "And no one, not a soul, stood up for me, or for Jordan. Noah stood in silence for a moment, then grabbed his phone and said, "This ends now." Now this is where the story starts shifting, because Noah wasn't just a fire chief, he was also a decorated army investigator. And the judge? He wasn't just corrupt, he was sloppy. That same week, a woman named Teresa Dunn showed up at their doorstep. She'd worked in Barrett's office for 5 years, nervous, pale, carrying a thick manila envelope. "I saw what happened," she said. "I should have come forward years ago." Inside that envelope, everything. Emails, secret fines, fixed rulings, payoffs. Barrett had been running his courtroom like a private racket, and no one had said a word, until now. Noah and Emilia took that folder straight to the press. It blew up. Half the town rallied behind them. The other half? They turned nasty, spray paint on their garage. "Stay in your place." A rock through their living room window. A black sedan parked across the street every night, engine off, headlights dark. They tried to scare them, but they picked the wrong couple. Noah got louder, Emilia got braver, and the town, well, it started waking up. Soon, a protest formed outside the courthouse, then a second, then a full-blown investigation launched by the state. Judge Barrett was called to a public hearing, press everywhere, cameras rolling. He called it a witch hunt, but the evidence said otherwise. He was stripped of the bench, gone, just like that. And the courtroom, once his kingdom, became the birthplace of reform. Emilia spoke at the Justice Summit that spring, baby Grace in her arms, voice strong and clear. Justice isn't a speech. It's what you do when the system dares you to stay quiet. And you speak anyway. But you want the real twist? The judge's old courtroom became the very place where Chief Michael Vega, the first black police chief in Crestwell, held community meetings. And one of the first officers to speak? James Carter, the man who once racially profiled Michael months earlier. He stood up and said, "I cuffed a man because I didn't think he belonged in my neighborhood. That's on me, not him." People gasped. Some even clapped. It was messy, yeah. It was uncomfortable, sure. But for once, it was honest. And months later, that same officer was seen walking side by side with Michael at the precinct's first ever Community Accountability Day, talking to people, apologizing, listening. So yeah, a racist judge tied a pregnant woman to a chair and thought that would be the end of it. Turns out it was just the beginning. Because when one woman stood up, even while being forced to sit, a whole town learned how to stand with her. Now let me ask you something. If you were sitting in that courtroom and saw that rope, saw that silence, would you have stood up? Or would you have been just another face in the crowd? Let us know in the comments. What does justice mean to you? And what would you risk to protect it? Like, share, and subscribe if you believe stories like Emilia's deserve to be told. And if you think silence is never an option, you're not alone.